So right now, we'll go into a Q&A for any of our speakers. Feel free to ask any questions that you may have on any parts of the ESSA school and after school connection. And if you have them, please type them into the chat box. Otherwise, I thought I might just bring out to the speakers a question about examples that we've seen in the field that really speak to these indicators. So we know that schools and school districts are going to be focused on graduation rates, on absenteeism, on family engagement, on STEM learning, those special populations like English language learners. And so if there are some of our speakers who want to share maybe one particular program that they've seen or are aware of in the field that's doing this well, that could then make the case in terms of indicators on the work that they're doing, we could do that now.
Jillian, this is Kathy.
Thanks, Kathy. Sure.
I have been working with the school district in particular, small town, economically disadvantaged area of southern Ohio. And that school district's graduation rate was extremely low. So we began to work with them. We were lucky enough to get 21st Century Community Learning Center grants for each one of their elementary, for their middle school, and for their high school programs. And when we first started those grants, we were really thoughtful in embedding those programs within the school, challenging the principals and the school staff to be part of the planning process of those programs, and challenging them to think of after school not as just a set-aside program, but a program that can really absolutely impact what they were doing in the school day programs. And within a 2-year period of time, we were able to increase their graduation rate by 10%. Today, those programs are still existing. The high school program actually has gotten to the point where there are a few students that still need that support and help, but not the numbers that we were once looking at, and not the numbers that we were concerned about. The community has been impacted by that because the community has been involved, and the community has helped create programs and found funding for these programs, so that the resources that the families and the children needed were brought to that community, not by the schools and not by the 21st Century program, but by the other community providers in the area. They saw that there was a captured audience, that we had identified those students. We were able to share data of academic success and discipline and all of the other data that we had on hand with those providers that they would not have normally had access to. And today I can say that community has been certainly impacted by after school and what we have done there. The superintendent started out, this current superintendent in this district started out as a provider of programming. He was our program manager for our 21st Century in the high school program, and he moved from that position up through the ranks of the district to assistant superintendent, and 2 years ago was appointed superintendent. So he came from the after school field, and he moved into the superintendent position, and really has moved that project forward for us, and really understands the impact that we've had in this building.
That's fabulous, Kathy. Thanks for sharing. I think there are examples like that we can really build on. And so every conversation might not lead to giant success, but we have examples of conversations that are starting that process for us, and then we can bring those examples to the table. And the next time we engage in the conversation with a principal in a regular meeting or a superintendent, those examples will continue to be placed in front of them, and I think that that's how this movement will really grow, so we have many more success stories like the one that you just shared. We also have a question here from Kathy about whether after-school programs are licensed childcare programs. And it looks like a two-part question, and also how you're gaining support for the quality of after-school programming through this process. Susan or Nichelle, does one of you have an answer for Kathy?
Sorry, this is Nichelle from Ohio. Go ahead, Susan.
I was just going to say that one of the things that we pushed and was incorporated into our ESSA plan was our after-school quality standards, which I think many states also have their own counterpart of now. And so those standards were incorporated into the plan. But one of our district recommendations is also that our standards, resources are free and our trainings are free. And so it's another great opportunity to not only use for school-based programs, but to facilitate trainings with, in conjunction with schools, and open those up to all different types of providers, because we do work with kind of the whole range of folks. But that is kind of in our trainings and evidence-based practice section of our recommendations.
Thanks, Susan. And Nichelle, did you have something to add?
Sure. Yeah, and I'll echo Susan's statement there. We do work with a wide variety of programs, and OAN does have a quality statement about what we think quality programs means on our OAN website. Just that way we're all under a shared agreement. But I think that regardless of whether or not your program is licensed or unlicensed, and I think that this is the larger message that I'd like to get across, is that, you know, if you're operating an after-school program, there's an opportunity here for you to help with some of the lift that the school district is trying to do as far as student outcomes go. Because there is so much to do and so little time and resources are so slim in school districts, why not engage in that with that after-school program? Whether it's, to help, address student behavior in the classroom, getting an after-school program to kind of mirror what's going on in a classroom setting as far as student behavior and discipline goes. I mean, why not engage them? Why not talk to them about attendance and helping kids understand that, hey, when they come to the before-school program, it helps them get to school more consistently. Why not have those conversations, regardless of whether you're licensed, regardless of what capacity you're operating in? So I think that that's sort of, I don't know, my overarching message on that.
Great, thanks. We have another question. This one is for Susan. Susan, can you describe more about the type of training and preparation that you gave to your group of advocates to get them ready for those communications in the field?
Sure. So we had our initial webinar, which is recorded and is available on the, I saw that the link to all of our resources was sent out. So part of them was working through it, but it was also working through just that webinar. But also this is information that we had been providing for months, kind of before getting advocates ready for district meetings. So, we had been providing updates on ESSA and the state plan. So a lot of the folks that we work with were already somewhat familiar with it. Outside of that webinar, our group of after-school advocates meets quarterly, and they also have an in-person meeting once a year. So this year for our in-person meeting, we were able to dive a little bit deeper into it. They were able to kind of take some time to review some of the information and do some questions and answers. So we started off with that webinar, and then we kind of had that in-person meeting, and then we did another follow-up conversation about it in our next quarterly call after that, so that way they had time to kind of digest. And then beyond that, for people who we've kind of narrowed down a specific target school district, we've been having one-on-one follow-up calls as well about, who would be good people to reach out to, which administrators in your program should you be looping into this. And so we've been offering kind of some of that one-on-one coaching as we've gone through this process as well.
Thanks so much, Susan. That's great.